Alright, it's been a while since I've done one of these, so let's have a look at this lap a little bit higher. Okay, so turn one is kind of flat. Like it's flat to the apex, and then the entry is flat, and then you need to brake to make this the upcoming left-hander. I don't actually know all the corner names and numbers. One moment. I guess it would be helpful if I knew what I was talking about. Okay, cup layout. So, okay, so these aren't corners. So this is turn one. We're flat into here, and then lifting and a little bit of brake. Just see the trace there. That just helps to pull the front end of the car into the corner, or to transfer the weight forward to help us turn. And then we're using part throttle and then a bit more brake again. And you obviously want to keep the car left here. You can run up over this curb. This is turn two. So not too much curb because it might unsettle you a little bit for the braking. And then again, very little brake pressure just to help the car rotate. And then patience is kind of a thing on this track. You really don't want to be picking up the throttle too soon, especially not with too much steering angle, because you'll just sort of lose the rear, or you'll either oversteer or understeer depending on which end of the car breaks traction first. So nice and gradual with the throttle. There's also a lot of blind exits, the worst of which is turn 3A, which we'll talk about in a second. So here, this is your reference point now. This kind of where it dips down, you want to aim to clip the sand basically as far right that you can see as you're approaching this corner. This view obviously isn't great because we're high above where we would be. So when you're here, it's that kind of intersection where you know there's a bit of track there that you can't see, but that's what you're aiming for. And that's also a rough braking point for me, is that sort of clipping point on the outside of the track there. So then we're braking. I've not talked about gears as usual. Okay, so I'm only using second, third, and fourth for the whole lap. So your mileage may vary. You may prefer to use first, but yeah, I found second was fine in the hairpins. So to me, it always makes sense to use as few gears as possible. So that would have been second gear, third gear, and then just leave it, ping the limiter. I don't shift down to second. So this is your classic sort of compromised exit turn. So we're hitting the apex, and then the halfway point of the track is as far as you want to go to the right. Then we're setting up this one, so down to second gear. Don't hit any of the apex curbs too hard. They're pretty steep. You can kind of bump them, but you don't want to sort of be smashing over them because you're gonna send yourself wide. So here it's really important to get on the throttle smoothly, and also on the exit you're aiming a little bit further right than you want to be, because the car is going to naturally drift left because you lose a lot of traction over the top of the hill. So that's going to be a key thing in practice, is just getting a good line here because you can't really see anything. So you've just got to maybe find a marking on the track or something that you can aim for so that you don't end up in this gravel on the exit. Then braking point from in the car, the end of the curb is quite a good reference. So it feels like you're at the end of the curb, you're actually not quite. But yeah, I'm actually braking here, but it's a good reference point. So then back down to second, or maybe even still in second. No, I did shift up to third. So back down to second. Feels like there's no grip here whatsoever, so don't push your luck on the entry, I guess. Just take it nice and steady. Again, don't hit this curb because it's huge. And then here is, depending on whose setup you're using, if you're using mine, a big aggressive lift is going to help rotate the car a lot. And then you just use a little bit of brake pressure, the same as always, to get it rotated. And like I've been saying, be really patient when you pick the throttle up. If you have too much steering angle, you're going to just slide wide, and then you'll probably be inclined to steer more, and that's just a lose-lose situation. You're going to destroy the front tyres, so you want to make sure the wheel is practically straight when you're getting back to full throttle. If it isn't and you need to use the throttle, don't use full throttle. So coming into turn 6 now, braking sort of on the top of the hill. Again, be kind of cautious into here because as you're going over the crest and taking all the weight off the car, that's also where you're braking, so you don't want to be too aggressive. It'd be quite easy to go wide, although that's not too critical because we're getting a really late apex anyway. But obviously you don't want to be sliding wide into a Nissan. So then we sort of double apex this one. We head into the yellow line and then let the car drift out a bit. And then, as I was saying, we're just using a little bit of brake at first to get it rotated. And then I've got a lot of steering lock in here, so I can't use the brake anymore because then I'll just be going too slow. So I need a little bit of throttle, but if I use too much, I'm just going to immediately overwork the fronts and we'll go straight. So just a little bit of throttle, and then when I start to feel like I can wind it on a little bit, I do, and then you're modulating here until you're sure you're not going to end up in this sand. First billboard is a pretty decent brake marker. And then second gear. This feels pretty horrible, this section, to be honest. It just won't turn, but it's the same thing. So we're using like a 50%, 60% for the initial braking, slowing the car, and then about 10% for rotation in the middle of the corner, and then a bit of throttle again. But not full throttle here. I mean, by all means try it in practice. You'll see that the car just wants to go straight. And if you're really struggling with that, then try and use sort of 10% throttle and see how much of a difference it makes. So then we're up to third gear, probably fourth there. And then hop that inside curb, down to third, and braking. So the shift and then on the brakes. Again, you want to sort of imagine the center line between these two corners is as far right as you want to go. This whole section is like the Audi's worst nightmare. So you got to do it a favor and try and make the whole thing as straight as you can. Careful running wide here. And then the other thing I haven't mentioned is the first couple of laps are going to feel awful. If you're using my setup at least. By sort of the third or fourth laps, like if we have a look at my laps, I was doing 32, 31, 31, and then I'm down into the 30s. So by the sort of third or fourth lap, fifth lap, that's when the car starts to feel how it's going to feel for the majority of the race. So when you're practicing, don't just do a couple of laps and start making changes, because you need to let everything warm up, particularly the tyres, and then you'll have a better idea of what the car's going to feel like. So once it has warmed up, this is completely flat all the way through here. And you want to hug the left. You could go all the way out here and then drift back in, and I just think from a multi-class perspective, it's probably better if everybody's hugging the left here so the Nissans can go around the outside, and that's a consistent thing for them. And then braking for, what turn are we on now? Turn 10. Braking, I don't really have a reference here. I guess it's sort of, I mean, it's there. You could maybe use the end of this tyre wall or this little bundle of tyres or something in your peripheral. Yeah, I guess that's tricky, but I mean, with practice, you'll just have this kind of a feel situation. And then same old, small amount of brake pressure just to help it turn, and then back on the throttle once you know you're not going to run wide. And coming down into the final corner, make sure you wipe the cones out. Some people use them as brake markers, so you don't want to leave their brake marker there. It's very important. So that's more of a Nissan thing, to be honest. The braking point for the Audi is probably this cone, if you want an actual brake marker, or when you can see this nice Dodge Charger advertising. I'm using second. And then, again, make sure you've wound the lockout before you get back on the throttle here. If you still have sort of this much lock and you go full throttle, you're going in the wall. So you've got to get it as straight as you can before you get to full throttle. And then obviously we're flat through here. I actually lift off here because the Nissan behind me is trying to get by. But yeah, that's a lap of Sonoma. So the key thing is patience, really. There's a lot of long corners. The Audi really doesn't like long corners, so I would focus on trying to feel the front tyres working with different amounts of throttle in the middle of a long corner. So trying to get a real good feel for how much throttle you can use before you start understeering. So if you find yourself using 40% throttle and then you're winding more lock-in, you need 30%. And that's going to be the main thing. And then traffic. This race is known for terrible traffic. It's extremely difficult, so let's just run through it really quick from a traffic perspective. So here, the Nissans are either going to go up your inside if they get there soon enough, or if you're here, they're going to go around your outside. So if they're going up your inside here, you're going to have to slow down a little bit more than normal. If they go around your outside here, I would practice and just generally make sure that my line leaves them a space. So if I was racing, I would probably just keep my line a little bit tighter if there's Nissans around. So then if they do decide for whatever reason they want to go the inside or the outside, I would say the outside is the way to go. But if they decide they want the inside, there's space both sides of the track. So heading up into turn 2, they're going to send it up the inside here. You're just going to have to be aware of that one and hope they don't do it too late. Then coming out of here, they might struggle to get past here. So if they do, it'll be late and it'll be down the inside. You could potentially, if you got a Nissan right behind you on exit, you could potentially just stay left a little bit, let them have the right side of the track, and then when they brake late, they're the one taking all the risk on the outside. Hopefully no one will pass you through here. You will get passed down into this corner. I got hit last time we were here, down into here. It's going to be a late move. You're just going to have to move out of the way, unfortunately. Yeah. So then we're coming into the interesting parts. So here they're going to go around the outside. That's fine. We don't need all the exit here. We don't want all the exit here because we're going to be setting up the next left-hander. So they're going to go outside there. Then they're going to go inside here, which is not so good. Ideally, if they haven't made it yet, we would want them to wait and then go around the outside. But they don't like waiting, so you may have to be aware of that. Once you're into the inside of the corner here, I would say it's the Audi's responsibility then to leave space on the outside, because the Nissans will just breeze past around the outside of you here. Then we get to here, and now it's the Nissan's responsibility to know that the Audi's going to be out to this curb. So they should be either clearing you in time or waiting and going on this side. Heading down into the hairpin, you're going to get a big send. So I would recommend letting the brake off and just imagining that the track goes out here. So just let the brake off, let them have the inside, run it nice and wide, and then cut back and get a good exit. And then this is by far the worst section. So here, the Nissans think they need to get by, which quite rightly they do, because they're about to lose loads of time. Now, potentially, a well-timed move could be round the outside here, as long as they clear you by the time you need to go left. So this is too late. If they're still here now, you've got a problem. And if it's a train of them, they're all going to go. If one guy's going up your inside here and there's 4 behind him, they're all going to try it. So you really want to sort of telegraph that that's not a move. In this practice session, somebody tried to go around my outside here, and then they were still next to me here, and we had a bit of contact. So I would say if you don't make it around the outside here in a Nissan, then you're stuck for 2 corners. And then your opportunity is this side on the exit. And then it's this side all the way down to turn 10. Now it's too late for this side. Or technically not. Now it's too late for this side. And then you will need the left-hand side. But only briefly, because now it's the right-hand side again. So you're just gonna... Once you've done your braking and you're picking up the throttle again, that's when I would just have a quick look in the mirror and be like, is there somebody planning to go around my outside here? Because if they are, don't pick up as much throttle, so you can just leave them the car's width. And then the hairpin will be standard. You dive bombs and you'll get pushed out car's width from the apex, so you'll just have to do a longer loop. And if you're committed here, I would kind of like I just naturally did anyway, I wouldn't go all the way right here. I would just hang out on the left-hand side of the track and kind of imply go around this side, because although this is flat and you can leave a car's width, if you're trying to go flat around here with a Nissan here, that's going to be difficult. So you want to basically force them to go around the right-hand side of you. Yeah, and that's kind of it. So, good luck. Good luck.